Slow fade.
Boom.
And then... Fuck, I'm just pausing it. I know you want like a more dramatic turn down the volume. I'm like, nah.
Click.
Nah, brah. That's so every time we listen to that intro song, I hear that little ticker tape noise in the background, and I'm like, yo, is like the microphone not, like the headset not plugged in good, or the microphone? But I'm like, wait, it's only when it's this song, and then you're like, that's intentional. I'm like, what an awful element for the song.
Oh my God, shut up.
I'm sorry, buddy.
Dude, you know what?
I have to apologize.
I'm not going to make you an intro song ever again.
That is fair. I don't deserve it. I'm being very rude to you. I'm being very negative this whole week.
You're just a negative guy, dude.
I'm having a very negative week. I'm trying to work on it.
Yeah, bro.
We
all heard about you almost beating up someone at the tofu bar.
I didn't almost beat him up. I almost set the restaurant on fire. Very big difference. Very
savage.
For very minor transgressions. I had so my girlfriend she's poking the bear, and like I'm actually like I'm climbing out of it. Again, it's just like every 4 months, every 6 months, I go into this dark hole where I get really spiteful. And like I also in the past I've been like just like you're dead to me,
right?
Like I will delete your number. I will never talk to you ever again unless you
remind me not to piss you off.
Well, but I know it's like, but I don't do it often. It's very rare. But when I fall into like when something puts me into that thing, I'm very quick with the trigger,
right?
And it's a bad habit. But again, it happens now like maybe twice a year. And it's only a couple days, but the problem is I don't always get over that grudge that happened in that moment. I don't get over it sometimes.
Yeah.
I know, it's bad.
We got to get you to smoke some weed and chill out.
But I told the girlfriend today, I'm like, hey, this happens every now and again. I'm sorry that it happens, but it is what it is. If you want me to get out of it, stop giving me shit about it. I'm just going to suck you into.
Back the fuck up.
I need space. See, she needs coddling. I need space.
That doesn't
get the fuck away from me. I need to be like by myself for 3 days.
Right.
Or around people that don't know I'm doing that.
Right.
Because then I'll get out of it. But if she's like, oh, when am I getting Happy Tom back? Are you just going to be grumpy forever? And it like makes you be like, actually, no, I don't think I want to talk to you ever again. Maybe we should.
Grumpy Tom.
Yeah.
I like it. I'm going to start calling you Grumpy Tom.
No.
What's up, Grumpy Tom?
All right, what's up, dead to me, Taylor?
Oh, you fucking savage.
I'm sorry, buddy.
It's all right.
What was it? What was I doing? Who knows what I was doing? But I was thinking, I always, kind of like reflect on like other jobs I've had.
Right.
And been like, or other positions, and just been like, did I like that job?
Right.
Did I hate that job? Was I being reasonable in what I liked and disliked? Was I treated well? Like, kind of all those things.
Yep.
Booze time.
Sick.
What is this, Neil?
That's the gin.
Oh, we got gin. Sick.
Ooh, gin at 9 o'clock in the morning. Let's do it.
9 a.m. gin, baby.
9 a.m. gin.
The Beauty of Having podcast at a distillery.
Right.
It's a booze patty. So, when I have those thoughts, one job that I can't help but go to is when I was selling beer when I first started at Thorn.
Right.
So I already had like 6 years of beer industry experience, but I was never like a sales rep.
Right.
I was always in operations. You came in on the event side, which is a little closer to sales, but then you took a sales gig. It was like your second gig in the industry, right?
Yep.
So I just want to run you down what my experience was doing that job, because I think for a few different reasons, I think it was different than yours.
Yep.
I'm curious. So I'm curious how your experience was different. So when I started at Thorn, we were just in North Park. Right. We were draft only. We only had that little 7-barrel system. So for every batch of beer, we were making 10 kegs. The tasting room would pour half of it, and I would sell half of it. That's like roughly how it would work out. So I was like, okay, I have like 5 kegs of like 5 different beers at a time. I'm going to go out to all the rotating beer bars and see if they're down to carry, to take one.
Right.
And every now and again, I would go into a restaurant and be like, hey, will you carry our beer all the time? And very quickly I realized, well, that's really hard to do when I can't guarantee to have. But there were a couple beers that we always had in stock. There were like, we would almost always have Relay IPA, we would almost always have Coconut Porter, and North Park Pale Ale. So those are the three. If it was a restaurant, I'd be like, hey, do you want those? And then I quickly appreciated how nice it was to have like a fixed line, or it was the same beer all the time. I'm like, good. I can just sell that in, ship them the order every week, check in on them, and then do all the hand selling of the rotating beer bars.
Right.
Especially back then, like we didn't have like a great reputation.
Right.
And a lot of places I was going hadn't even heard of us because, we were only a year old at the time, year and a half. So, and the ones that did, it was like had mixed experiences.
Right.
So I was spending a lot of time helping to like kind of communicate the like rest of the like I was outside of the Thorn bubble, so I was communicating, hey, here's the perception of us, here's what I agree with, here's where I think they're wrong.
Right.
So I can fix where people are wrong. I can tell them, no, you're wrong about that, but the other stuff, I'm like, hey, how can we be better at this, right? And simultaneously I was trying to guide like the brew schedule or the direction of the beers to something that actually made sense as far as selling beer.
Right.
So it's like, hey, we need to make Coconut Porter pretty much like when we finish a batch, we need to make another one. So like every 3 weeks. Same with right? So that was when the idea of having a couple of cores actually got cemented, which was tough with a little brew system.
Yeah. Doesn't give you much wiggle room.
No, so it was like, okay, I can only have 3 Coconut Porter lines. I can only have 3 Relay lines. Right. And then I'm hand selling all this other stuff. I used to have to fill a lot of samples and for a lot of time. Everyone needed to taste every single beer we ever made before they'd buy it.
I told you, I remember the first time meeting you, or actually the first like 4 times meeting you, it would be like me walking in with my like couple bombers, and then you always had like a bag of growlers, and it was like, goosh, here's a growler.
No, they were glass bottles.
Whatever.
I would have a bunch of them, but yeah.
They're all glass bottles, and I just remember thinking it was funny. I was like, this dude just mobs around with a bag full of growlers.
Yes.
Or glass bottles, whatever.
And at one point, my move was I was using a 5-gallon bucket, like the Home Depot bucket.
Yeah.
And someone in like internally, either Dan or Dennis, thought it looked like trashy. I'm like, dude, people love it. It's so blue collar. It was such like a working class move.
Y'all want some beer?
Yeah. Who wants some beers?
You like beer? I got beer for you.
But then, so it took probably a year before people would trust a new beer from me and then bring it in. Everything else, I had to taste them on every single thing.
Right.
And that was great. And then we ultimately bring on another sales rep. And once we're at the point again where people are trusting me and I'm actually can sell with relative consistency, all the beer not meant for the tasting room. And then we're starting to we're looking for a bigger brewery, and we're contract batching at, what was it, Manzanita, Latitude, and Mission. We did all 3.
Right.
While we're waiting for this brewery to open. That's when we needed the extra sales rep. Actually, we ended up bringing on one, so we brought up Jay. And then we ended up bringing on Keith, who did North County. And now we're selling like 60 to 70 kegs a week. And we have a lot more permanent lines because I have like 3 or 4 beers we're making in bigger batches outside.
Right.
Then when we go and we launch this place and we sign with Stone, now we have cans as well. It's like, well, we never did off-premise before. We were only on-premise.
Right.
So I was doing off-premise for a little bit and then fell into my current role as GM. So I had a I'd say 70% of my career was really small sales career, small brewery, rotating beer bar, and the other 30% was permanent lines, and then maybe 10 to 20% off premise.
Right.
You had a significantly different experience.
Completely different.
Right?
Yeah, completely different.
So when you started with Latitude, you guys already had cans and a distributor, right?
No cans. We were distributing bottles, 22s.
Okay.
We were bottling with CBG. So I came from Coronado. I was doing events with them, and that's kind of what got me into the industry was, when I signed on with Latitude, I was going to be part-time sales, part-time events guy. And then after like a week, my boss was like, you're great at sales. Let's just stick you with sales. And I was like, all right.
Pat yourself on the back right there.
Yeah, why not? And so when I came on at Latitude, it was just Honey Hips. There was no Blood Orange yet. And that was essentially all I had to sell, but we had a huge tank space. So the opposite of you, I had too much tank space where I'm brewing these massive batches, contract brewing Thorn. And it was like at that point just trying to figure out a way to fill the tanks, right? And then I think what ended up happening was we had a batch that we ended up dosing with blood orange and started bottling that. And then, reviews at first were mixed. There were some people that loved it, some people that hated it, but I just took it and ran with it. I was like, there's nothing like this. This is kind of unique. I think grapefruit sculpin had just kind of started like taking off. So I was like, this could be like our grapefruit sculpin, right? So I essentially just loaded up my car with like 15 cases of blood orange, and I just shotgunned the market. Like I went to every single restaurant, every single bar, because I had the tank space to be able to make it, right? So I could make 60 barrel batches of it starting off. And then so I just literally blasted every single location that I could, and
And what do you? But you're going for like big volume spots, right?
big volume spots, yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, I hit the rotating bars, but I mean, nobody wanted the blood orange, right? Or honey. I mean, honey hips people would take every once in a while, but I mean, still. So at that point, I just kind of figured out my niche would be like to fill a line where they didn't have something like that, like a blood orange or something that's like a fruited adjunct flavored IPA.
Was grapefruit sculpin was big then, right?
It was like just taking off. Like we had gotten the idea of blood orange IPA from the Ballast Point guys. Like they came up and they're like, you guys should try out what we're doing. We're adding grapefruits, adding amaretti, whatever. And so we're like, well, fuck it, let's just try it. And then I was able to somehow lock down a couple spots. Like a couple buyers were like, ooh, this is really, really good. And once I sold it in, it sold like crazy. And once that started happening, I started getting the support from the distributor. Because at first, the distributor was like, bottom feeders, right?
You're a burden.
Yeah, you're a burden. Bottom feeding, supply rep.
Bottom feeders.
Bottom feeders. This guy.
Get your disease away from me, please.
Our happy hour. Well,
Not very helpful here.
Yeah, you're infected for sure. Tom.
Okay. Get your nature COVID away from me.
Oh, man. So once I started selling in, and then, I mean, obviously it was a combination of things. It was like becoming friends with your distributors and like, supporting them. And then they're like, all right, well, shit, it sells. The brewery supports me. The guy's willing to help me out. I'll start pushing your beer. And then once they started selling it and realizing that it has pull through, then things just kind of took off. And then from there, my focus just shifted to off premise. Thanks to James and Nate and some of those guys at CBG, they were like,
So you started on you push it, had on premise, had the on premise reps pushing it for you.
Right.
So you're like, cool, this bike's cycling. Now I got to go find placements off premise.
off premise, and then at that point, cans came online. So I had bottle placements at most chains, whatnot, but it wasn't until we did cans, and then those went in, and then those started selling like crazy. And then with the IRI data that I was able to build on IRI scan data, I was able
for the grocery stores.
for the grocery stores, I was able to get even more placements with it, and then at that point, it just kind of started snowballing. And like I said, I think the thing that was different from you than me was I took the complete opposite approach of instead of just hitting a couple rotating bars and trying to sell in, I just shotgunned I would pull into Encinitas and I would grab a whole 12-pack of bottles and I would just walk down the street and just drop them at places. Yeah. And until I got a good reaction from someone. And so, definitely a different.
Yeah. But I think it's a different approach, but with it was a different landscape.
Yeah. Well, then not only that, I think.
I wouldn't do like what I did before.
Right.
Like if we opened with this brewery here in Barrio, I wouldn't do that.
Right.
I mean, we'd go out of business just trying hand selling it's so inefficient.
Exactly. So then what we ended up doing was at that point I moved up and then we started bringing on more reps for each region, North County, South County, LA. And then just having more boots on the ground just kind of helped cycle through the beer. And then literally I just made them take my same approach of like any bar you haven't been into, go into and just talk to someone. Even if it's all Bud Light or Bud Lines or Coors Lines, whatever. Try to sell them some beer. And then, I mean, that was just easy. It was just, worked from there, that point forward. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Because one thing that became clear to me pretty quick, I mean, it took me a couple months because I was grinding so hard, being like, man, I got to get this thing going. Then once we got to I felt comfortable when we were doing 25 kegs a week. Right. So when I started, we were doing 5 to 10 before my time. Right. Then by the time I was Jay came on, we were doing 25. Then, again, it just kept bumping and bumping. Yeah. So once I got to that spot, I'm like, man, we're doing 25 kegs. Even then, that's not a lot.
Right.
And even though it's a small brewery, like if I want to make a half decent salary, like it doesn't even make like either the brewery would go out of business to pay me that salary, or like I would need so much more beer that we can't conceivably make.
Right.
There has to be some sort of growth goal and willingness to like absorb the expense.
Right.
And that's when I started to look around. I'm like, I'm spending a lot of my time sitting in a bar, waiting in line to talk to a beer rep, to
Right.
talk to a buyer. Typically, I'm probably waiting for other beer reps, depending on the place.
Right.
Because a lot of places will have like days, like Newport Pizza, Wednesday, 10 a.m.
Right.
And then there's 20 people there.
Yeah.
And it's like you just hope you're one of the first ones.
Right.
So that, because when she goes and buys a cake from everyone, they're like, I don't know.
I completely stopped doing that. I tried that for the first 6 months, and finally I said, "Fuck it, it's a waste of my time." Like literally for me, it just didn't make sense. A, those buyers probably weren't going to buy anything from me.
Yeah.
B, it's one keg every 2 months or a month,
Yeah.
and it just didn't make sense. So at that point, I was going into spots like Barley Mash, Shore Club,
Yeah.
Mavericks, like bars that are going to put you on, you're going to stay on, and you're going to sell 6 to 8 kegs a month.
Yeah.
Right. And because I mean, same as you, like it was just too much work for too little to come out of it. Right.
And that's ultimately why I chose you for the position, is because I know, not first off, the people that I interviewed, it wasn't like the street reps that I saw doing, but if to be honest, nothing against them, but if their experience of beer sales is hand selling kegs to rotating beer bars and that's it, I wouldn't hire them.
Right.
Because that's like an accepted amongst beer reps. I think. I mean, it's somewhat of a necessary evil, but I think it's way too easy to fall into that trap of like work for a beer rep is waiting in line at beer bar after beer bar after beer bar getting your beer on, and it takes so much more than that, and it takes going into off-premise, which people don't like.
Right.
It takes going into places that don't want to fucking see you, and taking a no and going back and like fighting that no until you get a yes.
It's like one of those things. Don't get me wrong. Like I would walk in these bars, and like obviously I wished I had a cool, one-off IPA to be able to try to sell in these rotating beer bars. But it's like at that point, it's like you got to adapt and figure out what works for your brand and what works for your sales. You know what I mean? And it's like I just didn't have the tools or the type of brewery branding that you would consider to be able to be successful during that route. So it's like, don't get me wrong, small time breweries, like when Thorn was first starting, that's what you had to do, right? Because it's the only thing that made sense. But for me, it just didn't make sense to do that. You know what I mean? So you got to adapt, baby.
You adapted.
You got to adapt.
So fun. I still can't get over how much older everyone was than you.
Oh my God, yeah.
When you came for interviews, because you were what? When was you just had a birthday, right?
Yeah, so it was like 27, 28.
Yeah. The average age of other people that and again, a lot of them were over the phone. Like I was getting people from like North Carolina and shit like that. I'd say the average age, and some people I have to guess, 50. And nothing against it.
Yeah.
But because like the experience to execute, like, like this like your role was kind of like, it's like you need the experience that those guys have, but you also still have to like be in touch with like actually like grinding and hand selling and feet on the street, and it's tough because those are like there aren't a lot of middle jobs.
Right.
It's either you've only done that ground level stuff or you've been doing that high level stuff for long enough where like,
right. And that's one thing like I always appreciate for Latitude is, Mike Ingram gave me that opportunity to be able to, because like that's what I kept telling him. I was like, I want to do more. Give me more responsibility. I want to do more. I want to do more. And it was just that learning experience. You know what I mean? It's like it's invaluable, right? And so, it allowed me to kind of transition into a bigger role compared to like the ground level game because I've been through it. I've missed. Deadlines for certain things, or I've missed opportunities and stuff like that. But it's like you learn from those experiences, right? Mm-hmm. And then it allows you to adapt and like figure out how to do it right the second time. So it took me 3-4 years at Latitude to like get my bearings. But I mean, it's like I'm at that point now where like I think I get the ins and outs of managing a sales force for a brewery pretty solidly. You know what I mean? So, but I'm stoked to be here.
Stoked to have you.
Thanks, buddy.
Of course.
Appreciate it.
May Mitchell ought to be your next blood.
Dude, my fucking fingers are crossed. Oh man, I mean, I'm feeling it, dude. It was funny. I was talking with my sales rep friends the other day, and I paid for parking. Did you know that you don't still have to pay for parking?
Where? Anywhere?
In San Diego, up until September 1st. Karen was giving me shit for it. So,
No.
so apparently, you don't have to play for parking. And the inside joke used to always be like Taylor doesn't need to worry about money. He's got that blood orange money. And so my buddy Daryl from Ninkasi was like, he doesn't need to worry about money. He's got the Michelada money.
Michelada money,
I was like,
baby.
exactly. I was like, exactly.
Ryan Brooks coming for that Michelada money.
No way, dude. I'm gonna sabotage his batch, dude. We're gonna sabotage it. Extra hot sauce in it. Just fuck it up.
Yeah, I dig that.
Shouldn't ask us to contract, bro. It's sucker.
He hasn't, in his defense. Yeah, all right, cool. Well, I mean, I don't regret. I feel very fortunate. I had actually the whole time I've been very fortunate from start to finish at Thorn. It was like I needed a job because I got fired from the distributor, and
Yeah, you're going
Dennis
down.
was just crazy enough to be like, "What do you do?" And I'm like, oh, I was gonna do it distribution consultants. What the fuck is that? Doesn't even exist.
Yeah.
I'm like, I know distribution. I don't know. And he goes, yeah, sure. And I'm like, all right, cool.
Cool,
And then
perfect.
then the sales girl left, and you want to do sales? I'm like, I guess. Sorry, law school. I
Yeah.
guess that's not happening.
Dude, honestly, it's funny though. It's one of those things where sales is really hard if you don't get it. And don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, and not to talk shit on some sales reps, but there's some sales reps out there that just don't get it, and it's hard for them, right? But it's like if you get it, it's easy, right? It's like
There was a 6-month period where I was borderline depressed because it forces you to engage with humans in a much different way.
Right.
I've always had I have my really goofy friend level of relationships, and then I have my professional, you're my boss relationships.
Right.
Or my teacher, whatever that was. And I was usually pretty good at being like, hey, I'm giving you the serious stuff. I'm concentrated, I'm focused, here we go. But I didn't take anyone seriously other than that,
Right.
And when you're getting into the sales role, it's you have to develop a relationship that to me was very similar to how I wanted to behave with my friends,
Right.
but also had to be professional because I represented the brewery, and I also need something from you. I need you to buy things from me. I need you to like me. I need you to like what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I never needed someone to like me. I just it was kind of
All right,
if
fuck
you don't
you.
like me,
Fuck
whatever,
you.
yeah,
Yeah,
go to
yeah.
hell. I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
But it was
yeah.
so it was really hard to I don't know, to think of people differently like that. It was tough for me.
It's funny. I know I've already said this 3 times in this podcast, but I love the word adapt. And I think when it comes to sales, you got to adapt.
Pivot.
You got
Adapt.
Adapt. I used to have a teacher in high school. He's like, "What's the key word, ladies and gentlemen?" Adapt. And I don't know, it just stuck with me. But I think it's you gotta be good at adapting your personality. And I'm not saying being fake, but knowing if you have a bar manager that doesn't want to talk, then just know that and adapt your sales pitch. Hey man, here's what I got for you. Have a good day. You know what I mean? Or you have the ones that want you to sit there and talk with them for 3 hours. So it's all right, I know if I go in here, I got to sit down, I got to grab a beer, I got to say what's up, I got to spend my time here. And so it's knowing as a sales rep how to adapt to each buyer and how to know what their sales, what they receive well, right? When you're trying to sell a beer, you know what I mean? So I think that's a key component of a good sales rep versus a sales rep that's bad. There's sales reps out there that just, they have the same sales pitch no matter where they go. And it's sure, that works, 30% of the bars you walk into, but the other 60% either don't want samples, don't want to talk to you, do want to talk to you, you know what I mean? So it's finding that sweet spot for each bar you walk into, right?
Yeah, and it's so competitive that if you're not great, you're not good.
Right.
I was for what Thorn needed at the time when I first started, I was good. The Thorn distributed through Stone, I wasn't good for that anymore.
Right.
I wouldn't recommend a brewery hiring me to be a sales rep. I'm serious. I'm just I was
Don't
good.
hire me.
I was good at it for Thorn Street North Park.
Right.
But I don't even know that I would do that well again.
Right.
I think that thing has passed. It was a new challenge, and I wanted to
Right.
conquer it, and I was hungry, and I needed a job, and I don't know, maybe if I was unemployed for 6 months again and I needed a job, I would I'd fucking be a little more motivated. But it was just, I don't know that I could do that again.
No, I feel you. I mean, I definitely adapted what I do now. I mean, don't get me wrong, I still hit the streets, I still sell beer, but my sales tactics now was more high level stuff, right? I mean, obviously that's what we need at this point. So it's it's adapting what
Sitting in your ivory tower.
sending emails. Take the email. You didn't respond. More emails.
I like your. You do have good email tenacity. You're persistent but not annoying. It's very difficult balance.
Sometimes they come off a little annoying, but hey, you got squeaky wheel gets the grease, man.
Yeah, I don't think you're ever annoying. Sometimes you bludgeon people with
Information.
words. It's like, oh
Hey,
my
man.
God, I'm drowning in the sea of words.
Hey man, I'm just trying to get my point across as like, you know,
In as
lightly,
many
but-
words as possible.
You know, lightly, but like thorough. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Light, but thorough. All right, fuck you, Tom.
I'm
Always
sorry,
talking
dude.
shit on my emails.
I know.
They're well written emails. I have a little bit of grammar issues, but they're well written emails.
Yeah, no, they're fine. It's just like,
They're thorough.
is this guy gonna get around to it? Well, cool. Okay, that's great. You had pancakes for breakfast. What do you even?
Shut up.
I was hanging out at my house. I got a text from a Mexico guy.
Right.
I got a WhatsApp message from a Mexico
What?
guy.
Yeah, your boy.
Yeah.
What's his name?
This one's Caesar.
See, okay.
And he forwarded me a link. I did a Rock and Roll Happy Hour, which is the beer show on 94.9.
Right.
So 94.9's beer show is Rock and Roll Happy Hour. 91X is beer for breakfast.
Yep. Don't want to screw that one up again.
No, Rock and Roll Happy Hour is the one
I
that.
know that's the one I screwed up.
Oh, you screwed up.
I screwed it up last week. Remember? I was like, oh, that's the one on.
Oh, yes.
yeah.
Oh, correct. I thought you were referring to the first time we did Rock and Roll Happy Hour. It was me, Jay, and Steve and Kevin from Three Punks. I don't know if John was there. I don't know. It's 2 or 3 of the Three Punks guys,
Right.
and we were like getting like fucked up in the elevator, and like it was a shit show. So I remember when they invited us back, I was like, oh, cool. I guess we didn't fuck it up too bad.
Yeah.
So I actually think this is our third one now, but so did it, and we drank 5 beers, and it was like 2 in the afternoon.
Right.
It's pretty fucked up.
Oh, yeah.
Because you chug them all, right?
Right.
Not gonna not finish
Finish
it.
it.
And I remember, like, the dude from Mexico forwarded me the link, and he goes, "Dude, if you have anything more like this, let me know. I can use this to help sell more of your beer." And I'm like, "Oh, cool." It's titled, it's something like Thorn Brewing and the 3 Beer Beer,
Right.
which I feel I have to message my guy. So Mike Vitale, he was the first sales rep. He was like one of the first employees at Brooklyn Brewing. And he's the one the first one I ever heard say 3 Beer Beer.
Right.
And I feel like I need to call Vitale and let him know I've stolen that.
Yeah.
Because
Copyright infringement.
I constantly feel that because it's so perfect. I don't hear anyone else say it.
Right.
But it's his baby, so I gotta be like, "Yo, I stole your 3 Beer Beer thing." I gotta let him know, just to feel better for myself.
Right.
And he says, "Stop using it." I'll be like, "Mike, you're breaking up."
I can't hear you anymore. You gotta shoot him a tweet, dude. Now that you're on Twitter.
He's old. He doesn't have. I don't think he does social media. It's a phone call or bust.
Yeah.
But I love Vitale. So he was after he did so with Brooklyn. Not only was he like the first sales rep, they started their own distributor, which L Knife bought.
Right. Yeah. I remember that.
In Brooklyn, and he also got a lot of national distribution for Brooklyn. So he ended up, when he was done with Brooklyn, he went with the distributor to L Knife and was like a brand manager. So like L Knife would have like, Dogfish Head and like 5 of their distributors. So he would be the contact for Dogfish. They talk about expectations. He'd try to get him into the other distributors, shit like that, right? So he was always really, really, really good to me. I love him a lot.
Right.
I actually don't know what he's doing. I should give him a call. Anyways, Rockwell Happy Hour, I listened to it. It was like 16 minutes long. I'm like, man, we drank 6 beers in 15 minutes? I know, it's probably like 30 or 45 minutes long. So I have to shout out to Jeremy, who did a great job editing.
Right.
But you know what he did a lot of? He fucking sped me up.
No,
I listened to it. I'm like, there is no way I talk that fast. Especially like if I'm thinking,
Right.
I tend to actually, I'll like, I probably sound faster than I am because I mumble.
Right.
It's my accent. But I often use pause breaks when I'm thinking in the middle of speech.
Right.
And there's certain times where I hear like the words come out. I'm like, there's no way I would say that sentence that fast.
Right.
I'm like, that motherfucker
Just
sped
sped
me
me
up.
up.
Good for him.
Yeah.
Good move.
Good move.
Because the whole thing was 16 minutes and it was really like an hour. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's my guy.
Smart man.
Yeah.
Edit some of the stupid moments out. Just
Yeah.
let's cut that.
I actually very rarely, I usually don't listen to any of the interviews I do. I'm
Right.
like, it's 16 minutes. Let's just check in, make sure I didn't embarrass myself. That's usually the one, like, because they'll ask, especially when it's questions about, like, Yeah, sometimes I don't even ask a technical brewing question, but I'll just
Right.
talk about one that I'm not even 100% sure I'm right on, you know. And so that's
Says it with confidence too.
well, you have once you commit to it, you got to say
Gotta
it with
go with it,
confidence. Or if you just completely don't know, I do try to. I'll throw in the caveat every now and again. I'm like, hey, just so you know, sales guy, not brewer.
Yeah.
So take this with a grain of salt. But I don't. Sometimes I forget to do that. I'm already too committed.
You just got to go for it. Balls deep.
Especially when it's like tasting notes.
Right.
If I don't already have the tasting notes, I don't have a great palate.
Right.
So I can't. For me, it's citrus. It's not grapefruit pith. You know, I don't get like that specific.
Yeah.
And so that's usually the stuff I look out for. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, did I pretend like I can actually like nail down the real specific
Right.
pulp?
Yeah.
Like, I did okay. It was fine. I didn't overly say any, I didn't go too far outside of my comfort.
It's got hints of mango and papaya.
Yeah, papaya.
Kiwi.
Couldn't pick papaya out of a lineup. But if it says it on a piece of paper,
Yeah,
I can
sure.
say it.
This looks like it says papaya, so I'm assuming it tastes like papaya.
What does papaya taste like? I don't know. This, I guess.
Yeah, because that's papaya.
That's funny. Like when we do tastings, like was it me, you, Sean, and Eric? Did we do the core beer tastings like a month ago? We tasted Tropic and Hopsta and Relay. Were you in on that?
I think I did. Yeah.
We did it over Zoom. This was like in peak COVID.
Oh, yeah. It was you, me, Sean, and Eric. Yeah.
Especially like Eric. Sean's pretty good. Eric's really good. Eric's also like he's actually a good like chef. Like he understands food on that level.
Right.
But like he just picks things out, and I'm just like, what the fuck? How did you get that? To me, it's just like one muddled flavor, and then you say three things. I'm like, oh, I taste that. Oh, I taste that too.
Yeah. I'm guilty by association. Like if everyone else is kind of like, yeah, I guess I do kind of taste that. Oh yeah. Even if I don't, I mean that. But then sometimes it'll make my mind think like, oh yeah, that does kind of taste like oranges. You know what I mean?
And I'll just be like, a bit tastes like oranges, and then I'll have to think for a second. Like, wait, what do oranges taste like again? Fruit, huh?
Yeah, it tastes like fruit.
Interesting.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Fruit. Not too familiar. Sounds healthy. Bolt just closed their tasting room in La Mesa. It was the old Mr. G spot. So they have their brewery, the brewery in La Mesa. They have the tasting room in Little Italy, and then they have the tasting room in La Mesa, which just closed. It was Mr. G's. And I feel like this is a COVID thing.
Yeah.
Tasting rooms are definitely going to be the most expendable.
Right.
It's just going to be so...
Well, Bolt didn't distribute at all. It was just their tasting rooms, right?
Yeah, I think so.
So, I mean, there's your problem right there. It's like you have no other source of revenue, right?
Yeah, no other places to sell the beer.
That's what I'm saying, or to sell the beer.
Which I actually don't think is necessarily a bad idea. Again, when you think about how do you pay a sales rep?
Well, so now, I mean...
How much beer can you actually sell out of a smaller brewery?
In a normal circumstance, pre-COVID, it's a genius. I mean, look at Culture. They were cruising. They had like 4 different, tasting rooms, whatnot. They did beer only. Like that's the move. Or Modern Times. Modern Times, what they have like 8 now. I think it is.
I think they've maxed the shit.
Yeah, I think they're max, right? So it's the move. It's definitely the move. But in a time where there's only distribution and exports, right? Having just a tasting room is kind of brutal, especially ones that don't have food, right?
Yeah.
So it's like the whole COVID thing was like a recipe for disaster for these tasting room only locations, right? I mean, look, we just now opened up Mission Hills. It's been closed for like what, a month?
Yeah, it was closed for 2 or 3 months, open for a month, closed for a month and a half.
I think executing on a tasting room is one of the hardest things to do in a brewery, but has the highest potential for success or growth, right, or revenue. I mean, think about it. Like if you put a really
the margin is high, but you can only sell. Here's the thing: you can only sell so many pints in a tasting room. Like the way our tasting room is set up in Barrio, like we'll do a big places like packed from start to finish, and it'll be like I don't know, call it a $5,000 day.
Right.
Like there's really not a whole lot we can do more than that because it takes X amount of time to drink a beer. There's only so many seats.
Right.
And whereas I can sell and because we can only fit so many people in. Whereas it's nearly unlimited how much beer I can sell outside of the tasting room.
Oh, 100%. I mean,
so the margin's ridiculous, but it is capped.
Yeah. I hear you what you're saying coming with that. Yeah. So distribution has the highest potential, but I think that the easiest source of revenue could come from a tasting room. You hire one
Well, because
person.
the margin's so good.
The margin's so good.
Especially...
and you're just pouring beer. Like, besides that, I mean, there's no other cogs associated with it besides, utilities and labor.
And the beauty of Barrio is, like, we need to pay for that space
Right.
to brew the beer, whether we have people drink there or not. So, like, there is no real additional... There's no rent, because,
Right.
like, we already need to pay it anyways.
Right.
Same with utilities. And then because, the staff relies on tips, it's like not as much of a burden to keep the place running.
Right.
And the beer, you make the beer, so it's cheaper.
Right.
So yeah, I hear what you're saying.
It's just, yeah, like I said, I think post-COVID now, like, a tasting room idea is just, it's tough.
You want to hear a little extra? You want to hear a hot take?
Ooh, yeah, bring it on.
I don't think it's a bad thing if a bunch of tasting rooms go out of business,
Yeah, what do you say that?
because I think I like the 3-tier system. I think we are better suited having beer bars.
I agree.
More beer bars and fewer tasting rooms than the other way around.
I agree. I like the experience of going to a beer bar. Like, I mean, you know me, I go to the Beagle or Bottle Rocket or Seagull, like, once a week. I like sitting at a bar, eating bar food, drinking a bunch of different people's beers. You know what I mean? Tasting rooms are fun. I like doing, like, a little tasting room day where you go and, like, hit, like, 3 or 4 and try a bunch of different beers from them. But then again, it's like, you got to bounce between them, and it's like...
I gotta be honest, I don't go to tasting rooms.
Wow.
Maybe that's also part of the beer sales in me.
Right.
It's like I was spending so much time going to beer bars that, like, I
Just
can't really spend
ingrained.
time. I
Yeah.
can't sell beer to a tasting room. But even then, I don't know. I'm with you. I prefer the experience of a beer bar over a tasting room.
I feel that.
So that's where I go.
I enjoy going to a tasting room to try the things that you wouldn't normally try. So, like, one of the things that really bugged me at Latitude was we wouldn't produce, because we were just doing Blood Orange and Honey Ape so much, we wouldn't produce a new beer in, like, 3-4 months. So every time people would come in, it was the same 8 beers on the board. And, like, for me, if I was a consumer, like, that would bug me because I always wanted something new, right? So, but, like, there's some breweries out there that are popping out new beers, like, every day, like Pure Project or Modern Times. You know what I mean? Every time you go in, there's at least 3 or 4 new beers. That would be the reason I would go to a tasting
Yeah.
room.
Well, and that's the beauty of the way that Modern Times used their tasting rooms is they brew at most of them.
Right. Exactly.
So now it's not just one brewery's beer. They now have, it's like 6 breweries beer. So they can have fucking 50 handles and new beers on all of them because they're all pumping out beers
Right.
on a somewhat smaller level.
Right.
Still, they did it right.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, yeah, I'm into that. I believe that it'd probably be better in the long run for there'd be less tasting rooms. But, I mean, I still don't want to see anybody lose out on business.
You don't want to see anyone go out of business, but, like, beer bars are struggling. I mean, Tornado
True.
just went out,
True.
and it's like, so that shift is
It's happening.
interesting. Yeah. So I don't know.
I feel you on it.
I say I want more breweries. How about this? I want more brew pubs, fewer taster rooms, more beer bars. That, to me, that's ideal.
I dig that.
I would actually love it if, like, Thorn and North Park, if every brewery committed to something that size, we could have fucking 500 breweries in town and beer bars.
Right.
And I think they could all stay in business.
Right. I like the concept of food, too. So I like the brew pub. I'm into that. I like seeing, like, what you do. Like,
Tay-Tay likes to
around.
eat.
I like to eat. I mean, clearly, Tom likes to eat.
Loves to eat. And doesn't get a pump in.
No pumps for Tom.
All right, buddy. I got my one-on-one with Sean.
Good stuff.
It was such a pleasure.
Always.
being with
We want to rip some of this gin?
Oh, fuck yeah. Yeah, let's do it.
Should we try it?